And we're back for another round of Keene No Spin.
Hi, Randy.
Hey, Chris. Happy New Year.
Well, Happy New Year to you, too. I apologize. We're going to be a little bit short this week, and that's because I was late getting here. I'm owning it, and it's a new year, so I want to own everything up front and get it over with.
Starting off just like last year.
That's right.
Late.
I guess, yeah, at the end of the year. Never mind. So, good New Year's Eve?
Slept. I made it. I did make it up till midnight.
I did not. I didn't, and I chose not to. I chose to go upstairs and go to bed because we'd had a great day. We went and saw Mary Poppins Returns. Little kid and me, but
You stay awake through it?
Oh yeah,
Did you?
It was good. The problem is when it's Dick Van Dyke and Julie Andrews, no matter what you do, it's going to be tough to follow. But they did a really good job of telling the years after story.
Critics Corner right here.
So I thought it was good, and I don't go to the movies often, but my wife wanted to see it, so I said, let's do it. And
you probably got there on time. Yeah.
No, we were early.
You've compensated. You've made up for it now.
So as we go into the new year, then let's take a look at what's going on in the city, in the county, in the state. I mean, we've got Elizabeth Warren, who is now officially saying that she's thinking about running for president.
And she's going to go out to Iowa, I guess, next week and think about it a little bit more, since she doesn't really need to come to New Hampshire.
And I was listening to Morning Joe on MSNBC, and
It's a good show.
It is a good show, and they showed how many Democrats could actually get into this that they know of, that could have mentioned something about.
Now, you and I have not put our names in yet, but we'll exclude the two of us, and
they wouldn't want us.
I think they figured about 20.
Yeah,
about 20 going to run for president.
Well, and just I think as long as you don't have one figure, just taking all the air out of the room, and they have a discussion about where America needs to be, and they really are able to say that to the American people, that to me will be exciting.
I'm still hoping Joe Biden puts his name in. I love Joe. The old bumper stickers that he had, I'm riding with Biden, were great. And I still have my pin, so I want to use it. I'm hoping he gets in. I don't know.
Well, he said over the next 2 months he'll figure it out, and
I know he's a couple years older than I am, but
he could be a great asset especially if he brought somebody on that could be the future of the party as his VP. But that's his call. But again, Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, Beto O'Rourke, you name it, Cory Booker.
Cory Booker. We both had the opportunity to meet.
Right. I mean, there's a litany of interesting people out there. It's a really exciting time. The campaign for 2020 has already started, and we are very fortunate, and we need to continue to fight to maintain that privilege of being the first in the nation, because we get to see the candidates up front. You go out to California, it's sound bites. It's big market media bites. But in New Hampshire, a governor from Georgia like Jimmy Carter can become president, and it's because he laid the groundwork in New Hampshire, in Iowa, in South Carolina, and it makes a huge difference. So
when Bill Clinton was running, I physically bumped into him downtown. I mean, physically, we were coming around a corner at the same time.
Yeah.
We bumped into each other, literally and physically, and he goes, "Hi, I'm Bill Clinton. I'm running for president." And I'm like, "Sure you are," and we got to talking, and I said, "Geez, I met a pretty impressive person as far as knowledge," and 2 years later, and that's where we're at now.
Right.
You'll mark my words, within a couple of weeks or so, virtually every day for the next, at least for the next year and a half, you're going to see candidates just walking downtown, because there will be probably about 15 to 20 Democrats, and they'll all be here. It'll be fun.
It is fun. It's a great time. It's a great time, and I know WMUR loves it, because their revenues go through the roof during the cycle.
And Chris and I promise you right now, we will get a few of them here.
Yeah.
We have in the past.
We have.
We'll bring them in.
See. So
if they want to have, if you want to get to be president, it comes through here.
So all right. So let's talk about Keene and some things that have happened over the last few weeks.
Sure.
I will say that I'm very pleased, and I know it's been open up for a little bit now, but Martel Court is now opened back up.
Yeah.
And so
you go down there and get your plants and
or
get in and out
go to
a little
Norm's or whatever, and it's just nice to be able to do it without having to go all the way down the roundabout and go over, or illegally cross over. Not that I ever did that,
No, you'd never do that.
but
Well,
but
and with that said, too,
but the work has been done, and
we had to
hopefully
have the work done.
and hopefully that work will allow it not to back up like it has, because what happens is that when we have a heavy amount of rains, it builds up down here. It's not going through fast, and so it starts building up back river, and that's when you see the flooding, is what I've been
Yep.
told by the experts. I don't pretend to be the expert, but I just know that I grew up on the corner of Church and Valley here in Keene.
You get older in
And-
Church and Valley. You haven't grown up yet.
Yeah, all right. Well, I've got older, growing up there, and I used to watch Arnold's, if you remember Arnold's, on the little grocery store there with Smitty and everybody. That they used to, you used to take a rowboat down. They'd stay open, but you
literally.
take a rowboat down.
Yep.
I think Mayor Blastos lived there at one point across the street in the big, I think it was a greenhouse. Fire Chief Guyette lived just down around the corner. Superintendent, now I think about it, wow, that was a power circle right there. Superintendent Champagne lived right there too.
They didn't have enough power to get the flooding taken care of.
No, they didn't. They didn't. But
Yeah, that'll help. And plus, that Lower Main Street, that bridge was like many bridges in the area. It was F-rated. It was ready to go.
yeah,
So obviously when you fixed it, it handles a lot more drainage. So you are correct.
yeah,
But there's going to be a lot of projects coming up over the next year and a half, 2 years too. So,
right.
but it needs to get done. Our infrastructure is pretty bad shape.
So are you staying out of the whole Vietnamese restaurant controversy?
No, I usually put my foot right into the middle of things.
Yeah.
I actually met with the city manager today. And by the way, she said to say hi because I told her you and I were getting together today.
Oh, okay.
And she'll be getting a hold of you before long about some issues.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Hopefully not with me.
Yeah, don't be late. So we did discuss it, and this has to do with the name. And
Is it the name or is it process? Because the process, you have a leg to stand on. Name, do you really have a leg to stand on?
Yeah, absolutely. Basically, in this particular case, Keene isn't really acting as a government body. In this particular case, Keene is acting as a landlord.
Okay.
Okay. When they approached the city manager about possibly renting that spot, which is right next to City Hall, right next to Lucas, they said, okay, bring in your paperwork and we'll do some research on it. And when they brought it in, they did have that name, and basically one of the reasons that the city manager had a problem is because the way it's pronounced, and pardon me, but this is it, is fucking great. Okay?
Because PHO
Stands
in Taiwan,
Vietnamese.
Vietnamese.
It's pronounced pho.
Pho.
Yeah.
And then you put Keene. Great.
So the whole intent was to be a little bit controversial. And look, it's city property. And the landlord, who was the city, and the city manager, who has the authorization to do these leases, said, we will lease you this property, but you will not use that name, and you will not make a sign for that. We will not issue a sign permit with that name on it.
Was that before they signed the deed or after they signed it? I mean, this person has been paying for that spot for like a year and a year. By the time they open, it'll be like a year and a half.
The agreement was that, from talking to the city manager, the agreement was one of the stipulations, when they signed the lease was, and she met with the city manager and other city staff, was you just won't be able to use that name.
Was that the name she was using at the when she had the trailer down by
it was a little bit different, but if they were going into somebody else's property, it wouldn't matter because Keene wouldn't really be able to say anything if it's a legal name.
Right, but they're a landlord in this situation.
But we're the landlord, the city is, and as a landlord, the city said, look, in this particular property, which is ours, sitting next to the restaurant, which is Lucas, we don't think the way that name comes out is appropriate.
Yeah.
And at that time, they had said, okay, we'll put up a different name. And then, lo and behold, they put the sign in the window. I guess it was a temporary sign, but they have not even applied for a sign permit yet. And they have not applied for a city health permit yet. So they don't have any permits, with the exception of being able to do some renovations. I checked today about the sign permit, and they don't have a sign permit. Because I'm aware of a sign manufacturer that was actually making a sign for them,
Yeah.
but they don't have a permit for that sign, and the city will not issue one with that name on it. As you're aware, the Free Keene group, which has gotten involved, with this, and
Why now? Why are they involved with it?
I think.
I mean, there's rumors that there's a relationship there, but I don't know anything
Yeah,
about
basically, from what I've heard, is that there's a relationship there. Actually, her trailer was up on property owned by the Free Keene Group up on Route 101.
Oh, that little gift shop.
So, yeah, and that's owned by the Free Keene. So there has been some involvement in there. But to show that Keene had good faith, we knew early on there was a connection there. Okay, the city did, the city manager did. But in good faith, it's like, look, if you're just going to open up a successful restaurant and be part of downtown Keene, we want you here. But they said, however, that name's not going to fly. You've got to change that to be in this location. Yeah. They agreed. Well, now, fast forward to now, and unfortunately, I think some of the members that are backing her like controversy more than they really would even care if the restaurant opened or not. And I think that's unfortunate.
Does she really want the restaurant to? I mean, I know that's stupid in asking, but again, it seems like it's been over a year since she's been in that building. Yep. She still doesn't have permits for things.
Nope.
And I don't pretend to know her business. I did actually call their phone number and left a message to have her get in contact with me because I'd love to hear what she's thinking, but she didn't get back to me, or no one has at that point. So I don't know who I'd be talking to. I
guess their original intent was to open up in the summer, and then the last I heard, they were really planning on opening up this past September. Yes, they are paying rent on it. Who's coming up with the money? I don't know. I guess it's
not really our business.
No,
as long as
that's irrelevant.
The bill's paid.
As long as they're paying the rent, and if they want to sit there, for the term.
Did the attorney say anything, or did you? I
haven't talked to the city attorney yet.
But is there any First Amendment rights?
I did speak to an attorney who wasn't the city attorney, just a friend of mine that's an attorney, because they were talking about, civil rights and the ACLU, and basically this attorney told me it doesn't matter because the city's just acting as a landlord, and the landlord can say, no, we're not going to lease that spot if you use that name.
So it's not because of, anything more but landlord rights.
That's it.
So if you owned a space and they wanted to change it to something that you didn't approve of, like when you rented a space,
because I've rented a space in the past.
You had to ask permission for the name to be used.
Yep.
Right? And
yep.
Because
okay, yep. The landlord had and if the landlord that I leased from didn't like that, they'd say, no, it's our property. We're not going to do that, and if you want to use that name, fine, but go lease somewhere else.
Yeah.
And see, that's the sad part of this whole thing is because it would be very easy for the owner of this restaurant just to move a couple of words around. Very easy. And still get the word out about what it is. But it's just a play on the words. Mm-hmm. And let's be honest here, and this is what we're going to have to do, what they've been discussing at City Hall, and I apologize if anybody's offended how this comes out, but this is how they want it. It's fucking great.
Did you just swear?
Exactly. And now,
even though it's PHO, again, faux, it's pronounced fa, and then you put the Keene, and you get the great, and you say it real fast, and that's what you get, what he just said, not me.
Well, it's funny because I was listening to Dan Mitchell this morning on his WKBK show, and he wouldn't say it on air. Mm-hmm. And people are supporting it, but nobody will say it on air. Mm-hmm. Because, let's face it, a lot of times when you're going against government, everybody likes it. They think it's a joke. Oh, they're going to go against the big government, but nobody would say it on air, and Dan Mitchell couldn't even say it on a show.
Yeah, I didn't get the memo until after my show. I had said it, but I had said it just the way I said it before. And no, I said it one word, slowly. The next word,
slowly,
and the last word, and then I told the audience, you say it fast and see what you get.
Exactly. And that's what the landlord, and the city is the landlord, has to deal with. Do we want a restaurant right in City Hall, because it's in the building, right next to Luca's, who, by the way, Luca leases from City Hall.
Right.
Okay? He has to go by the agreements.
But is that part of City Hall? Is that a building that we purchased? I can't remember if that section is part of the original City Hall, because Lucas isn't. It's part of a building that we purchased. If you look at where the
Viennese restaurant is going to be, the Keene City Hall sign is right over it goes right down, it continues over where the restaurant is.
All right.
But yes, it's all part of the city building. But
I mean, just how much should the city of Keene be a landlord in the first place?
That's been discussions for years.
Yeah.
Like we own the airport, which we always will, and then you have a restaurant there, so you lease it out.
But I can see the
transportation.
I can see the purpose. I can see the purpose there. the purpose there is you're trying to draw attention to the airport.
Well, but the thing is, these restaurants are in part of the building that houses
Yes,
City Hall.
Right. No, that's the thing.
know.
And then,
I mean, I suppose you could sell that space, that square footage, if you
Yeah.
wanted. As you know, the city owns the land that Corner News is on,
yeah.
and we own the transportation center. That's a couple of businesses. And
Why do we hold on to that property? Because of someday we may turn it into something that we haven't turned into yet?
Yeah, I guess basically, my opinion is on that particular piece of property, sell it. My opinion, but I've always been in the minority over the years.
Yeah.
I don't see any need to hang on to that particular small building, but it is what it is, and I mean it's very small. There was the argument that, well, and you've talked about Gilboa Ave. There still might be some development down there. I don't know, but my opinion on that small piece of property is just sell it.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see. Sometimes I'm on the end of a 8-7 vote, and
Is there like a little brewery tasting room that's going to go into Odelais? Is Odelais looking at doing that, something like that?
they had proposed, because they are still leasing part of the transportation building.
That's
a
right,
lot-
where Odelais used to be.
where Odelais used to be. They do a lot of the food prep there still.
Great story.
Yeah.
Odelais is a great
Success.
story. Yeah.
And the word is that they had thought about maybe they wanted to take over that spot. There was some talk among some councilors, I guess, maybe we had to look at that and possibly turn it into bathrooms or something else. My 115th is, if Odelais wants to lease that, we lease it.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's adding to the success story downtown. You want thriving businesses downtown.
Mm-hmm.
The bathroom story is another issue. But as far as that building goes, no. If we can lease it out, especially to a successful business that's already there
Right.
downtown, then we lease it. Show some good faith. That's my opinion. That'll be coming up. That'll be coming up for discussion, I'm sure, shortly.
Right.
Because I know they are interested. So, So as far as the the Vietnamese restaurant, I want them to get open. I want them to be successful. I am wondering why it's been a year. As anybody would be when you hear a restaurant's going to open and then a year later it's still not done yet.
Yeah.
But
And again, I've had not their food, but another restaurant that's very similar to them, and the food is outstanding. Outstanding. So it would be
a lot of people like Vietnamese
it
food.
would be a great addition to the restaurants that we have downtown.
Mm-hmm.
I already hear that Tilly's has somebody that could be moving in there, so that's exciting. So that will be filled again, and
what happened there?
Not mine to know.
Because I don't actually know either.
I can guess, but I'm not gonna. It's just sad because they put a lot of money
I mean, I
into
saw
the
they've been
renovation
closed.
and really brought it to. Brought the restaurant up. Their food was good, so it's just one of those things. For whatever reason, it didn't work, but I applaud them for.
Because I never heard anything formally either. I just looked over and saw they're closed.
Yeah.
And it was kind of just a quiet.
Yeah.
Just locked the door up one night at closing and just didn't reopen it the next morning.
I think there are times when people look at their bottom line and say, "What are we doing here?" And maybe that was one of these situations. It may not be, but it's it is what it is, and it's too bad because they were different in what they were trying to do. And
it's a tough business.
It is a tough
man.
business.
I've been there and done that, and in the service industry, the food bars, the margins are very small. There's no room for error.
No.
And there's a lot of competition for a city Keene size. There's a lot of eateries.
Yeah, I went to the other night. I was doing the bachelor thing. I can't remember where my wife was, but she was somewhere. And
Was it late, like after 5 p.m.?
yeah. And so I was walking through the city, saying, "What am I going to have for dinner? Do I really want to go home and make something?" And I said, "I want some ziti, some pasta." So I went to Luca's and ordered some to take home. And I'll tell you, his meat sauce and his vodka. Oh man,
His pasta comes out better than my pasta does. Have
yeah,
you noticed that?
Yeah. Oh yeah. So it was just there's so many good opportunities down here to eat. We're very fortunate. So this would just be a great addition.
Yeah.
And if it's real, what they're saying about TD North and a brewery going there, which I don't know if that's the truth or not. But
I'm trying to get confirmation of that, and I can't. But I keep hearing from different sources, kind of a nod and a wink that somebody's seriously looking at it. I actually went up to the 4th floor of the planning department of City Hall today, which I do before we do every show.
Yeah.
And they haven't got anything formal on it either.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know.
and they would be the first to know. So, and you look at it, that's going to take some level of renovation.
Yep.
So,
And I also checked with them on the
I'm-
Vietnamese restaurant. Have you got any sign permit or health permit requests?
Nothing.
None yet. And going back to that, that's what concerns me. They're already out there making protest T-shirts. It's like you haven't even got a permit yet. Why? So it concerns me. Is this whole thing just going to turn into a big protest now? Because let's face it, the
Well, if they make it
the
a
free
big-
Keeners love attention.
Yeah, but the thing is if I don't care how your product is your food.
Just open.
It's
open.
it's your food, and if your food is good, people will go.
Yeah.
But if your food is good, and if you have an open up and there's a lot of negative,
Controversy, yeah.
then who wants to go? So that's the double-edged sword of it all. Is it good publicity? Some people say any publicity is good publicity,
Yeah.
and maybe that's true. I don't know, but I'm excited if it does open, but I just don't want the headaches to go along with it.
Yeah, why they chose to, because this could have been all done quietly behind the scenes, which the city thought that's what was happening. It was just,
Yeah, I mean, when you first read about it, you thought, you didn't think about the city being a landlord. You didn't think about, or at least I didn't. You didn't initially think about
the pronunciation.
it took me a couple times. I kept looking at the sign saying, what is the story here? And then I thought, well, they didn't go through the process. All right, that's the issue. The process is the issue. And then somebody, said, get a clue, Chris, and read it.
Read it fast.
And then they told me how to say faux.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, okay. All right, well, is that illegal? Are we getting too serious about ourselves? Is this, you think, is this on top of the city saying the thing about the 21, turning to 21 for tobacco, which Massachusetts as of January 1st? And you think all those things through, but at the end of the day, if it's that they are landlords and that they have language in the contract to say that they need to have approval for this, then they have a leg to stand on. Mm-hmm. I just get worried sometimes because there are people out there that live for this kind of stuff. That can then take it to court and it makes a mockery of this city when there's so much good that's going on in this city that we get we get sidetracked by these other issues.
The problem is in the city, when you say the city, and you've been on the council before, we do everything we can to avoid controversy. Really, we don't like stepping in, mounds of doo-doo, But like I said, the city was good intent because we knew a year ago or over a year ago that there might have been some involvement with the Free Keene group. It was aware of that, but the owner there, she seemed to be very forthright, really wanted to get this done, and move forward. And you think about everything that the Free Keeners have been involved in, and I made a couple of notes here. They played those drinking games up at City Hall to get attention. They'd pretend they were drinking alcohol to try to disrupt city council meetings. They did the chalking and the graffiti downtown to make a big deal out of that. Then that wasn't gathering much attention. Then they did their whole meter thing, which grabbed national attention for a while. They made it look like, we're the Robin Hooders, And then after a while, that finally, went away. And then, of course, the one of the biggest things, it brought that Chris Cantwell up here, who was part of the Free Keene group, who is now called the Crying Nazi, So it seems like every time Keene gets bad attention, national bad attention, the Free Keene group's behind it. But they like this.
Yeah, because they get
like
viewership
this
out of it, and they
Absolutely.
get financial. I mean, it's
They make money off bad news for Keene. If they hated Keene that much, why be here?
Mm-hmm.
If Keene's that big bad of a bully and we're pushing you around, why would you be here? And the reason that they're here is because Keene's tolerant. There's a lot of communities that would not have the patience and the tolerance Keene does. Like the Keene police, very tolerant police department. There's some communities that wouldn't put up with their crap.
Well, I also think that they have over the years. I don't know. I think that it's just that they have an agenda, and that's fine. But when you start they're a political movement.
There.
And
Thanks, Governor Benson.
But they have every right to be. They have every right to do what they're doing. But it doesn't make it right the way they go about it. That's always been my issue, and I've told the leadership there, that in the past, that the bottom line for me is that, sometimes I don't always agree with the methods. You have the right. I'm not going to say you don't have the right. You have the right to come before the school board and talk about recruitment going on at the high school. But we're following this law. So if you want to, don't come here and argue with us. Change the law here, here, or here. Those, and that's
but that's not their intent. Their intent is attention.
Yeah, no, I know.
That's the intent.
Yeah,
You know.
and so
And they got it again.
yeah. So
You know.
and let's move on.
And we'll move on from that. But anyhow, well, I was meeting with the city manager today, who, by the way, she did say to say hi, because one of the issues that we talked about, moving to a different issue, is homelessness in shelters, which that's, as you know, that's always can be controversial also, you know, depending on which shelter you're talking about and what property they're trying to buy. But one of the issues that the city manager is very concerned about is something that I've brought up in the past, is homelessness needs to be addressed more regionally.
Oh,
And-
that's what she's going to call me about.
Bingo. It needs to be addressed more regionally, not just region, but county and town. Because she's very aware of having been the former town manager up in Franklin. If you don't have a homeless shelter, you just put them in a cab and ship them to another town. And she realizes that the more beds that Keene brings in for the homeless situation, the more beds that are available, the more the towns ship them to Keene. And what we're concerned about is other towns and other communities aren't pulling their fair share. You know, and she realized up in Franklin they'd actually send them to Plymouth, New Hampshire, you know, because it was closer than Keene. Claremont and a lot of other towns, it's no secret, they put people in cabs and send them to Keene.
Well, that's a different county.
And you know how New Hampshire is, Chris. When you're in town, when you're here,
But that's
you
all-
are a resident here.
But the problem with that is it's hearsay until it's proven theory. And we've asked, as the council has asked, that same question. I've heard state reps ask the question of the executive director of 100 Nights, and the answer we get is that
they're Keene residents.
they're Keene residents.
And they are once they get here. Somebody drives in from Swansea and plops their butt down and says, I'm a Keene resident, you're a Keene resident. That's New Hampshire law. So technically, you're right. What we're trying to
Well, I
find
don't
out
know
is,
if that, and I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if a sending town. I know in school districts it's different, and I get that
yeah,
for homeless.
school's a lot
homeless-
different. School in Keene, let's face it, is ward to ward or area to area. Where if a child lives close to an elementary school, that's
Yeah, but
That's what
I'm
we
talking
want.
about if a homeless person comes in, or a child because DCYF has been moved to a different place. Well, it's the responsibility of the sending where it initially originated in a lot of situations. I won't say all, but a lot of situations. It will be an interesting discussion because
it will be.
you know, I know that the county gives money towards 100 Nights, and I know that, you know, we've talked about that in the past. I know that they're looking to move, and because their rent they say is too high, which is about $4,000 a month. But for the facility they have, it is what it is. And I know that they have only 26 beds, I think, and that even at, you know, starting before the 100 Nights start, their count, they were already at their maximum numbers, and that the alternative situation, which is I think United Church of Christ,
It's the overflow United Church of
you know,
Christ, which
wasn't opened up yet.
it is open up now.
Yeah. So I know that there's some concern there, but I look forward to the discussion because I don't pretend to understand if we can't get the real story, then if that, because I hear what you're saying because I've heard it 100 times. I've heard it that people from Springfield, Mass, come up here because they know coming up here you can get services faster than you can in Massachusetts. I know all that. I know it's this area and this city that is known for that more than any other. I know that it's if you are homeless, that you're located downtown and services are easy to get to, whether it's the kitchen, whatever else it is, that Monadnock Family Service, if you're seeking type of mental health treatment or anything like that. So I don't have a quick answer. And the other thing
There
is
is no
100
quick- there is no
Nights,
quick
at
answer.
some point the clock is ticking with 100 Nights too, because how do they maintain financially moving forward? And then two is, who is out there that's going to let them in the building? I heard, I had somebody, we talked about this the other day, and I had a text of somebody saying, well, Keene State College has an empty dorm down there, behind, and like that's going to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest with you, like you're dropping your child off, and it just I don't know if I could see that happening or not, but
Yep. Well, one of the comments the city manager had today, and look, we're all concerned about it. This isn't like, the problem is every time you talk about the homeless situation, if you say something that's not 100% positive, they'll try to categorize you as not caring and you don't care about the homeless. And I dealt with that last year when I brought up some issues with 100 Nights. See, my personal opinion is Southwest Community Services, who oversees the rest of the shelters in Keene, should oversee the 100 Night shelter. My opinion is you need one administrative body overseeing all the beds. My opinion is you do not need two administrative bodies kind of not competing with each other, but in a way competing with each other. I think there should be one administrative body, there should be one set of books, and one administrator in charge of the beds in Keene. With that said, and one of the reasons the city manager is very concerned about this is because if we talk about expanding the homeless shelters, because it's potentially needed, as you just brought up, we're aware people are coming in from other communities. And other communities look at Keene and they go, they just built facilities for more beds, send them.
Again,
and we need to look at the situation.
If that's reality, then let's start identifying it in real numbers.
The city manager is going to be calling you. She actually left a message for you. I don't know if you know that. So you and her are going to get together, and you will be discussing this and saving the county. And you and I will talk about it in 2 weeks. We'll see how far you came along.
Okay,
but
that's fine. There's a lot of issues.
It's a county issue too.
We talked about this the last time. There's the homeless issue. We see more and more, which really to me, any homeless is a bad situation.
Yeah,
but
it is.
But families, children.
Yeah.
Who would have thought that Franklin School would have 70% free and reduced lunch?
Mm-hmm.
There are some real struggles going on, and we need to continue to do whatever we can to help those situations. I'm a commissioner for the Keene Housing. I hate that we can't say authority anymore because everybody knew it as authority, but the Keene Housing, and we talk about these issues all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So what can we do? I talk to John Manning on a regular basis,
Mm-hmm.
who is at Southwestern Community Services, and this is a big issue. But like I said, I talked about this issue last time around, and that is the ambulance service. It's another huge crisis that's looming, if not already here around.
It's here.
Around how do we serve these towns that don't have the ambulance service that in their towns or in their area even.
Mm-hmm.
I think I mentioned last time that my understanding is up to 50% of all calls in Winchester are being dealt with through Deluzio, which is based in Keene. When every second counts and you're 15 miles away, that's a concern.
Oh yeah,
and that's
especially,
not. But
especially with fentanyl and the opiates.
Winchester's not like just one situation. There's multiple towns that are struggling with this, and their fire service,
Mm-hmm.
and their volunteer people aging out, and they don't have that population coming up that's going to fill those voids. What do you do?
Mm-hmm.
And so these are real hard questions that we need to start taking the time to really thoughtfully and pragmatically, not just throw money at it, but thoughtfully and pragmatically say, how's it going to work? How, 10 years from now, what's it going to look like? What have we done so that, tomorrow, 5 years, 10 years, or what down the road, we've set up a system that meets the needs of the communities that we all live in.
And what you're talking about is kind
and
of
it's not all about Keene.
No, it's not. That's what I talked to the city manager about today. Regional. It can't just always, because everything, it's not just about dollars and cents, and you just can't throw money on everything. But then again, you can't also just have Keene taxpayers just picking up the brunt of everybody's bill, and that's what's happening now.
Yeah.
Whether it's the homeless situation or ambulance service or fire service, more and more is Keene's picking up the slack, and the taxpayers are footing the bill.
Right.
Now, yeah, we're a very compassionate community, but at some point, it has to regional. It has to be regional, and we've got to look that everybody's picking up their fair share. And right now, they're not.
Yeah.
And a lot of, and if you're a selectman in some small town and you're saying, send them to Keene, they'll take care of it, until you're challenged, that's what's going to happen.
Right.
They don't want to go to their townspeople and say, we've got to increase your taxes a few pennies because, Keene doesn't want to take on as much responsibility. You're right. It's regional, not just with the homelessness.
And it's town by town having a conversation, with selectmen who really care about their town.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. I've had too many conversations with too many selectmen who have some level of deep passion and caring for their towns. It's not about, Republican or Democrat. It's about, I
Oh, yeah.
love living in this town, so I'm going to have a voice in this
There's
town.
not too much DNR
Yeah.
stuff in Cheshire County with the towns. It doesn't happen too
And
much.
so what we want to do is reach out to them and start having these conversations on how we can best start addressing these issues, because it's reality. And yes, Keene is the hub. And how much burden do they need to carry?
Yep.
But this is only a small portion of the issues facing Keene.
Oh, God, yes. Oh.
Sometimes we get caught up with, the homeless. But it is only this
a piece of
much
the puzzle.
I would say this isn't even a top issue, even close. Workforce, we said this last time, workforce is the issue.
Right. Well, workforce is the issue, and playing right into that, and all of it has been the opiate epidemic. That has its tentacles into everything. It has it into the homelessness situation by a lot. Mm-hmm. The opiate situation has made people homeless, has broken up families. You talk about fire and ambulance. It's blown calls through the roof. As far
but
as
I don't even know if it's even opiates anymore. If it's not fentanyl.
it's fentanyl,
if it's
but fentanyl,
if it's not
fentanyl's an opiate.
Yeah, no, but I'm just saying that people are getting away from. And they're calling it what it is. People are saying it's fentanyl. It's not opiates. I understand.
Yeah, it's fentanyl.
But it's it used to be heroin before that.
Right. Yeah.
And some people are saying some of the old drugs are coming back.
Yeah, fentanyl's a lot cheaper than heroin. And it started off with the oxys, which now are a lot harder to get. Fentanyl is easy to get. Mm-hmm. It's easy to get. It's cheap. Mm-hmm. It's dangerous, and that plays into the fire department. I mean, there's young paramedics now. That the 5 or 6 years that I was on the department as a call firefighter, you saw a handful of drug overdoses. This is every night. These young medics are running every night, saving lives. That's burnout, man.
Yeah.
And
so what's the city council? I've asked you this question before. What's the city council doing about that?
Well,
how are they supporting Mark Howard, Chief Howard, in bringing in people to work with these young, not even young, all the way up through ranks that are dealing with
one of the
this?
small issues that we did, and this was just part of the last union negotiation, that one of the things the firefighters were talking about is the way their schedule was. You'd do like an 11-hour on, then 13 hours off, then you'd come back the next day to a 13-hour. It was kind of one of those staggered shifts through the week. The problem they were having that in today's day and age was they weren't sleeping at all. Because they would run all night, and when your sleep pattern, if you have a job and you just work third shift, you get used to that and you do your sleep pattern into it. But when you have these staggered shifts all over, and now you're just running all the time, when they would get off, because of the way the staggered hours were, they wouldn't even be able to fall asleep. They were just wired open. One of the things that they talked about this last negotiation was they wanted to go where a lot of other communities have gone nationwide, and that's just basically a 24-hour on shift. Mm-hmm. And so, you're going to run all night because that's pretty much what they're doing right now. But then when you're off, you're off. Now, how it's going to be set up, I don't know if it's going to be a 24 and a 24, which is just basically going to be a 48, and you just grind it out and then go 5 off. I'm not exactly sure how the final schedule is going to be. But are you asking, what are we doing for the fire department and Chief Howard? We listened to them. They said, the hours are burning us out. We need to reshift our schedules like a lot of other communities in the country are doing. So we listened. Mm-hmm. When police and fire come into Keene, we're one of the communities that you don't see a lot of, beat back on. Some communities, some bigger cities, police and fire come in and it's always completely dollars and cents, and we don't want to hear it. There's a lot more to it than that. And the hours thing isn't going to cost Keene any more money. It's just it shifts things around. Mm-hmm. But there is no big end in sight. I was noticing, and we only got a couple minutes left, I was noticing that the building that was up next to the former jail is now going to be a recovery center. Mm-hmm. And you're probably aware of that because you're part of the county still, right? Mm-hmm. So I guess
though I will just make it clear, Southwest Community Services owns the building.
Yes.
We own the land that it's on,
mm-hmm.
so we lease the land to them, and they've subleased it out to this recovery group, which I think is an exciting thing.
That's well,
What
that's
is
a
it? Is
regional.
it New England New England Recovery and Wellness?
Yep, 'cause
Raw.
I wrote it down among my
It's raw.
live free, structured, sober living. Yeah,
Yeah.
Company out of Manchester, so they've done this before.
Yeah.
They know what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's kind of a second chance.
It's a great opportunity for somebody coming in because the building's pretty much already paid off.
It's
So
there,
what you're paying is the cost of the building to run. Mm-hmm. Wow. All right.
And you've read where the family from Winchester has another recovery building on Water Street,
A sober house.
sober house, that they get open. So there is a public-private partnership kind of coming together trying to deal with this. But
My only concern is I think it's great. Any treatment is one step forward to what we don't have now.
Mm-hmm.
But it's got to be able to be like I'm excited about the recovery and wellness place that's going up at
Right.
Second Chance, and that because that is it's gonna they're looking for people like Medicaid can be billed there is
Right.
what I'm being told. I
find out.
haven't had a conversation yet with them, but I'm looking to have a conversation with them.
You're right. It's a drop in the bucket.
And it's
a
something.
drop.
It's when you have nothing, something is a good thing.
Yeah.
And so, but if we can, if we've got, I don't know if it's going to be 8 beds or 16 beds. I don't know what they're going to end up doing up there. But if you can have people that have a place to go, that need that next step, that's exciting. That really is so.
But it is like to repeat, it's regional, and we all have to work together. It doesn't stop at the Keene Swansea line or the Keene Marlboro line.
And it doesn't stop if you earn $20,000 or $1 million.
Oh God, no! Except if family has $1 million, they have a better opportunity to save your life.
Right. Right.
But well, it looks like that's it, Chris.
Oh, that like right,
well,
5, 4,
it
3,
was a
2.
brief show because he showed up late. But
Have a great week.
we'll see you in 2 weeks. And if you see us on the street, tell us what your concerns are. Thanks.
Bye.